Part 1. Adapted Novel Content. Chapter 1. During the all-hands company meeting, our iceberg of a female CEO publicly announced that I was being transferred to a branch office 2,000 miles away. Her reasoning? I'm sick and tired of looking at your face every day. I calmly packed up my desk and bought a train ticket to the middle of nowhere that very same afternoon. Yet, less than 3 days later, she showed up at my doorstep, her eyes red, asking me, "Could you just yield just this once?" Liam Harper. The icy voice echoed from the podium, slicing through the air like a frozen blade and stabbing precisely into the ears of everyone in the auditorium. I was currently looking down, furiously typing on my phone in a group chat with my 4 work buddies, debating whether we should hit up Big Mike's or Smitty's for some barbecue tonight. Liam, Smitty's is doing a buy 10 get 1 free deal on ribs. I say we go for it. Dave, get real. His burnt ends are the size of rabbit turds. I'm out. Me. You're missing the big picture here. The size of the meat doesn't matter. What matters is the joy of getting free food. Just as I was about to type out, "You just don't understand the thrill of a freebie," to end the debate, my name was suddenly called out by our company's notoriously cold-blooded CEO, Victoria Sterling. I looked up blankly. The entire conference room, packed with hundreds of people, was dead silent. Every single pair of eyes had practically snapped to focus on me. The feeling was akin to being a happy little prairie dog happily digging a hole in the grass on a nature documentary, only to suddenly realize a pride of lions was watching. I caught the schadenfreude in the marketing director's eyes in the front row, the sympathetic yet gossipy gaze of the HR girl sitting next to me, and the "good luck, bro" expression on the face of the lead developer sitting diagonally across from me. Up on the podium, Victoria wore a high-end tailored black suit, her long hair pinned up in a flawless, immaculate bun. Her makeup was sharp, her eyes piercing. She was the kind of legendary woman who, if your mind wandered during a meeting, could mentally execute you 300 times over with just a single glare. Right now, she was holding the microphone, looking down at me from her high horse. That look in her eyes suggested she was staring at a piece of garbage that desperately needed to be taken out. Liam Harper, senior strategist in the planning department. She paused, her voice not overly loud, but it carried to every corner of the hall. "Starting tomorrow, you are transferred to the Sandstone branch to serve as regional manager." The moment the words left her mouth, a collective gasp echoed throughout the room. It rose and fell like surround sound. Sandstone? Where the hell was that? It was a tiny speck on a map of Nevada that you had to zoom in 20 times just to find. The straight line distance from our New York headquarters was over 2,000 miles. Legend had it that the wind there only blew twice a year, but each gust lasted 6 months. The so-called Sandstone branch was reportedly just a rented 2-bedroom apartment with a single permanent employee. Its main business operation? Receiving West Coast package deliveries on behalf of corporate. This wasn't a transfer, this was exile. Getting sent to the Night's Watch on the wall sounded like a better career move. Everyone was staring at me, waiting for my reaction. According to the standard script, I was supposed to go pale, my pupils dilating in shock, and immediately stand up to demand a reason. Then, I should either tearfully protest the injustice or righteously slam my hands on the table before storming out, leaving behind a tragic, unbending legend. The coworker next to me was already subtly elbowing my ribs, his eyes screaming at me. "Liam, man, say something. You can't just take this lying down." I blinked, digesting the information. "Oh, going to Sandstone." I quietly pulled out my phone, opened the Amtrak app, and looked up train tickets to Nevada for tonight. There were still 3 sleeper car tickets available. Nice, I had plenty of time. Then, under the watchful gaze of hundreds of pairs of eyes, I slowly stood up. A barely noticeable curve appeared at the corner of Victoria's mouth. A smug anticipation that said, "Watch, he's about to break down." I cleared my throat, met her gaze head-on, and asked a very serious question. "Victoria, just to clarify, are the travel expenses for Sandstone fully reimbursed, or is it a fixed per diem?" The expression on Victoria's face froze. The air in the entire auditorium froze. It was as if everyone's jaws had received a synchronized command, dropping open in unison. I saw the director in the front row drop his insulated Yeti tumbler with a loud clatter, spilling his iced coffee everywhere. I saw the HR girl next to me cover her mouth, her eyes wide as saucers. I looked up at Victoria on the podium and saw a tiny crack form in her perpetually icy expression. Her knuckles were turning white from gripping the microphone so tightly. It took a full 5 seconds before she forced the words through her gritted teeth. "Fully reimbursed." "Great. Thank you, Victoria." I nodded and sat back down. As soon as I was seated, I quickly fired off a message to the group chat. "Liam, guys, the barbecue is canceled tonight. Corporate is sending me on a business trip to Sandstone. I'll treat you all to authentic desert barbecue when I get back. The chat was silent for 3 seconds. Dave? Chris, dude, did you get caught slacking off red-handed? Josh, holy crap, you're not actually getting exiled, are you? What did you do? Did you hack into Victoria's computer? Liam, don't ask. Just know that I am pioneering new frontiers for the company. I calmly put my phone away and looked up, only to find Victoria still staring at me. Her eyes were incredibly complex, a mix of anger, confusion, and a hint of bewilderment. She clearly hadn't expected this reaction from me. She probably thought I would cry, cause a scene, or beg for mercy. Unfortunately for her, I wasn't a man with lofty ambitions. My life's motto boiled down to a few simple words. As long as the money is right, we're good. A transfer? Sure. To Nevada? No problem. As long as my salary stayed the same, my 401k and health benefits were covered, and my travel expenses were reimbursed, I wouldn't care if you told me to open a branch on the moon, as long as you told me whether meals were catered. The meeting continued in an incredibly bizarre atmosphere. Victoria's subsequent announcements were visibly distracted. She nearly misspoke several times reading her notes. The audience, meanwhile, wasn't listening to a word she said. Everyone's eyes kept drifting toward me, intentionally or not. I had become the focal point of the room, a walking, unsolved mystery. Finally, the meeting ended. Victoria, her face cold, marched out with the click-clack of her heels. As soon as I stood up, I was swarmed by my colleagues. Liam, are you okay? Dude, Victoria is totally making an example out of you. How on earth did you piss her off? Yeah, this is way too harsh. Sandstone is in the middle of nowhere. It's a ghost town. I patted the shoulder of the guy closest to me and said earnestly, you guys just don't get it? This is the company showing they value me. When you're broke, you focus on yourself. When you're successful, you help the world. My talents have outgrown the limited space of this headquarters. I'm heading out to a much broader horizon. The crowd gave me a collective look of, yeah, right? I totally believe you. I didn't explain further and walked back to my desk. I didn't have much on my desk. A Yeti mug, a cactus I had almost managed to kill, and a messy pile of strategic proposals. I found a cardboard box and slowly started packing my things. The HR manager rushed over with a file, looking both awkward and sympathetic. Liam, here's your transfer notice. Take a look, and if everything is fine, just sign at the bottom. And try to get the handover paperwork done today. Victoria's orders were, the sooner the better. No problem. I took the document and, without even glancing at it, signed my name with a flourish at the bottom. I did it with the kind of swagger you'd expect from someone signing a billion-dollar contract, not an exile decree. The HR manager's pupils dilated again. He took the signed document and walked away, looking back at me every few steps, his retreating figure radiating an existential crisis. I spent an hour wrapping up all my handovers. By the time I picked up my cardboard box, ready to leave the place where I had worked hard, slacked off for 3 years, a lot of people came to see me off. Liam, hit us up when you get out there. Take care, man. Remember to mail us some local souvenirs. Don't worry about your cactus, bro. I'll take good care of it for you. I waved goodbye to them one by one, a calm smile plastered on my face. When I reached the main entrance of the building, I stopped and looked back at the towering Manhattan skyscraper. Then, I pulled out my phone, snapped a photo of the company logo, and posted it to my Instagram story. The caption read, "The world is big, and I want to see it. Goodbye, everyone. Sandstone, here I come." The replies came instantly. Dave, bro, you are genuinely fearless. Chris, screenshot saved. Waiting for you to come back and rub it in Victoria's face. HR girl, safe travels, Liam. Crying emoji. In less than 5 minutes, the post had over 100 likes and comments. I put my phone away with a satisfied nod, turned around, and strutted into the subway station with style. Nobody knew that the moment I turned around, I was grinning so hard my face hurt. Going to Sandstone as regional manager? Same salary, plus a bump in administrative rank. Sure, the location was a bit remote, but it was out of sight, out of mind. No more dealing with Victoria's icy glares every day. No more endless meetings. No more toxic corporate politics. How was this exile? This was early retirement. I could already envision my beautiful future, waking up naturally without an alarm, strolling over to the branch office to clock in, hunting down the best barbecue in town, spending the afternoon coding my stealth slacking app, and eating some more at night. A life fit for the gods. Victoria, oh Victoria. You thought you were playing 4D chess, trying to torture me with exile. Little did you know, I was already waiting for you in the stratosphere. This move of yours wasn't a punishment. It was a blessing. I was almost grateful to her. Humming a cheerful tune, I boarded the Amtrak train bound for Nevada. Chapter 2. The rhythmic clackety-clack of the train wheels sounded like the world's most beautiful symphony to my ears. The day I left the company, the internal anonymous Slack channel absolutely blew up. A thread titled Mind-Blowing Gossip. Planning department's Liam exiled 2,000 miles away because the CEO got sick of his face. My good buddy Dave screenshotted all the highlights and sent them to me. Sitting in my Amtrak sleeper car, I happily slurped on instant noodles while scrolling through the drama. Post 1. Opie guys, you can't make this up? At the all-hands meeting today, Victoria publicly announced that Liam Harper from planning was being transferred to the Sandstone branch. Her reason? She got tired of looking at him. Is this a billionaire romance novel bleeding into reality? Liam's expression at the time was priceless. Post 2. I was there. Liam stood up, and I thought he was going to explode, but instead he asked if his travel expenses would be reimbursed. I swear I wanted to bow down and worship him right then and there. What kind of god-tier mindset is that? Post 3. Omeo, I was there too. Victoria looked so pissed. First time I've ever seen her put in her place. So satisfying. Post 4. Anyone got the inside scoop? How did Liam actually piss off the CEO? Could it be a rejected confession of love turning into bitter resentment? Doge face. Post 5. Stop making stuff up. I heard Liam got caught slacking off during work hours by Victoria several times. She wanted to fire him, but his performance numbers were consistently the highest in the entire department. Since she couldn't fire him, she just got rid of him. Post 6. That's the real truth. I heard the same. Liam is a legend. He works 10% of the time, slacks off 20% of the time, and relies on sheer genius for the remaining 90%. He single-handedly gets more done than our entire team. Post 7. So, this is the burden of being a genius? You're so good that your boss wants to fire you, but literally can't find a valid reason? Post 8. I'm more concerned about who's going to handle those psychotic clients now that Liam is gone. Last month, that one client who demanded a color scheme of vibrant, glowing black was shut down by a single proposal from Liam. Post 9. My boy Liam. Now that he's gone, the planning department's golden days are over. We're going to be tortured to death by clients. Post 1024. Breaking news. Liam has already finished his exit paperwork and left. He posted, "The world is big, and I want to see it on Instagram." And he's already on the train to Nevada. His mental game is unbelievable. Reading these comments, I laughed so hard, I almost snorted noodle broth out of my nose. Especially that bitter resentment from a rejected confession comment. The imagination on these people was wild. Me and Victoria Sterling? What kind of twisted joke was that? She was my boss, and I was her employee. The most intimate contact we'd ever had was her looking me up and down with an icy stare and letting out a disdainful scoff. Our vibes were like fire and water, the North Pole and the South Pole. They could never mix. I saved Dave's screenshots, planning to look back on them as a good joke later. After clattering along on the train for over 30 hours, I finally arrived in the legendary town of Sandstone. As soon as I stepped off the train, a blast of dry, hot air mixed with dust and the smell of barbecue hit me squarely in the face. The station was tiny. You could see from one end to the other at a glance. A few people stood sparsely at the exit, holding up signs to pick up passengers. I scanned the crowd and spotted a piece of cardboard with crooked, sharp handwriting that read, "Warmest welcomes to Manager Liam Harper for coming to guide our operations." The man holding the sign looked to be in his 50s, slightly balding, wearing a faded white undershirt and a pair of beat-up steel-toe boots. A genial, goofy smile plastered across his face. Liam. The older man's eyes lit up. He enthusiastically grabbed my hand and pumped it vigorously. "Oh my God, Manager Harper, you're finally here. I'm Hook Peterson. I'm the only one at the branch. I've been counting my lucky stars, waiting for you to arrive." He shook my hand so hard I felt a little dizzy. "Uncle Chuck, no need to be so formal. Just call me Liam." "I can't do that. You're the boss." Chuck looked completely serious, then took my suitcase from my hands. Come on, Manager Harper. The car is waiting outside. I'll take you to the office." I followed Chuck out of the station and laid eyes on his so-called car. It was a rusted-out, ancient Ford pickup truck. There was a half-empty crate of cabbages sitting in the truck bed. Chuck scratched his head, looking a little embarrassed. Manager Harper, things are a bit rough around here. Please don't mind it. This truck is handy, good for hauling people and cargo. I just got back from the farmer's market, so I swung by to pick you up." I was speechless. Fine, a rusted pickup truck it was. Better than walking. I tossed my suitcase into the truck bed and hopped into the passenger seat next to Chuck. The engine sputtered and roared to life, weaving through the streets with an attitude that blatantly disregarded all traffic laws. As I felt the dusty wind hit my face, I took a good look at the town. Sandstone was indeed small. There were only a few main roads, the buildings on either side were low, and everything was steeped in a retro, worn-down vibe. There weren't many pedestrians, the pace was slow, and there was a distinct, relaxed energy to the place. And lingering in the air was that rich, ever-present aroma of roasted meat. My stomach let out an undignified rumble. Chuck heard it and laughed. "Manager Harper, you hungry? Sandstone might not have much, but our barbecue is top tier. Once we get you settled in, I'll take you to get the best barbecue in town." "Sound great." I perked up. It seemed my retirement life was off to a fantastic start. The pickup truck made several sharp turns before finally stopping in an older residential complex. "We're here, Manager Harper. This is the company." Chuck pointed at the second floor of a residential building. I looked up. Sure enough, hanging in one of the second-floor windows was a faded sign that read, "Sterling Group, Sandstone Branch." Right next to the sign hung a pair of floral swimming trunks drying in the breeze. My eye twitched. Chuck led me upstairs and pulled out a key to open the door. The so-called office was literally just a two-bedroom apartment. The living room served as the workspace. There were two chip desks, and sitting on them were two computers that looked older than I was. A pile of dust-covered cardboard boxes was stacked in the corner. "Manager Harper, have a seat, have a seat." Chuck eagerly poured me a glass of water. "The south-facing room gets great sunlight. That'll be your office from now on." I walked into the office. A bed, a wardrobe, and a small desk. That was it. How the hell was this an office? It was clearly just a bedroom. "Uncle Chuck, is this really the state of our branch office?" I couldn't help but ask. Chuck sighed. Manager Harper, you don't know the half of it. This branch is just for show. Corporate sends over a little money every year, just enough to cover rent and utilities. We don't really have any business operations. Our main job is receiving packages and occasionally handling some minor errands for corporate on the West Coast." I understood perfectly. This was a retirement home. Absolutely fantastic. My facial expression must have been something else, because Chuck thought I was crushed by the dismal conditions and quickly tried to comfort me. "Manager Harper, don't lose heart. The conditions might be rough, but we have freedom. Nobody manages us here. You can come in whenever you want, or you can skip days at a time." He leaned in close and whispered conspiratorially, "I won't lie to you. The last manager who was here spent his whole first month fishing every day. Then he decided there weren't any big fish here. So he quit and went back to his hometown." I patted him on the shoulder and said with deep solemnity, "Uncle Chuck, don't you worry. I'm not that kind of man. Now that I'm here, I intend to dedicate myself completely to the growth of this company until my dying breath." My impassioned speech got Chuck entirely fired up. He grasped my hands emotionally. "Manager Harper, I knew it. I knew you were different from the rest. You are a man with great vision." I thought to myself, my great vision is eating at every single barbecue joint in Sandstone. Meanwhile, 3,000 miles away at the corporate headquarters in the top floor executive suite, Victoria Sterling sat behind her desk, her face like frost. The atmospheric pressure in the room was so low it felt like ice was forming in the air. Her assistant, Arthur, stood trembling to the side, not even daring to breathe loudly. "How is he doing?" Victoria finally spoke, her voice sounding like it had been dredged from a freezer. Arthur's heart skipped a beat. He knew exactly who he was. "Ms. Sterling, Manager Harper, has already arrived in Sandstone." How did he react? Did he call back? Or text? Victoria asked casually, but her eyes betrayed her anxiety. Arthur wiped cold sweat from his forehead and answered carefully. "No, Manager Harper seems to be adapting quite well." He didn't dare mention that Liam's latest Instagram story, posted half an hour ago, was a photo of sizzling, dripping brisket with the caption, "First meal in Sandstone. Totally worth it." The comments were flooded with people saying he was living a better life out there than he ever did at headquarters. Victoria's expression grew even colder. She slammed her fountain pen onto the desk with a sharp smack. "Excellent. Truly an outstanding employee. What incredible adaptability." She gritted her teeth. "Arthur." "Yes, ma'am." Arthur jumped. "Book me on the earliest flight to Nevada tomorrow." Arthur was dumbfounded. "Ms. Sterling, what are you going to do in Sandstone?" "We don't have any real operations there. Victoria is native. I'm going for inspection." "Is that a problem? I want to see exactly how he's managing his region." Arthur looked at his boss's expression, which looked dangerously close to someone trying to catch a cheating spouse, and silently lit a candle in his heart for Liam Harper, 3,000 miles away. "Good luck, buddy. You're going to need it." My life in Sandstone was even more comfortable than I had imagined. Chapter 3. Every morning, I slept until I woke up naturally, then strolled over to the office. Chuck usually arrived even later than I did, walking in happily with a bag of fresh groceries to greet me. Morning, Manager Harper. What do you want for lunch today? I'll whip something up for you. That's right. The main business operation of our branch office, aside from receiving packages, was researching recipes. Chuck was a hidden culinary master, especially when it came to comfort food. My job was to provide theoretical guidance and taste test. In the mornings, we'd symbolically turn on the computers to check emails. The emails consisted of 90% corporate spam, 9% mass notifications from other departments, and the remaining 1% being actual work we needed to handle. Usually a vendor sending something to the wrong address that we needed to forward. We could knock out an entire day's work in 5 minutes. The rest of the time was glorious, unadulterated slacking. Chuck would go back to his bedroom to watch spy dramas, muttering lines under his breath. I would stay in my office, continuing to code my stealth slacking app. It was an app that integrated web novels, comics, mini games, and livestock trackers. With the push of a hotkey, the interface would instantly disguise itself as a Microsoft Word document or a code editor. It was the holy grail for corporate slackers. I called it incognito. At noon, Chuck would clatter away in the kitchen while I enjoyed the amazing smells wafting into the living room. After eating, we'd take a nap. In the afternoons, I'd usually head out under the guise of market research. In reality, I was hunting down the hidden gem barbecue spots tucked away in the town's nooks and crannies. Sandstone wasn't big, but its barbecue culture was intensely developed. Almost every street had a few smokehouses or food trucks radiating that classic, smoky Americana vibe. It took me a week to hit every single barbecue joint in town. I even created a Sandstone barbecue map, detailing the specialties, flavor profiles, price-to-performance ratio, and even the temperament of the owners for each spot. For example, Fat Tony's Barbecue on the east side had incredible ribs, but the owner had a fiery temper. If you rushed him, he'd cuss you out. I was just staring at my map, pondering which establishment to grace with my presence tonight, when my phone rang. It was an unknown number, and the caller ID said New York. I picked it up. Hello. There was a silence on the other end, followed by a voice that was intimately familiar and freezing cold. It's me. I froze. Victoria Sterling. Why was she calling me? Did she suddenly grow a conscience and decide to transfer me back? Victoria? Hello. I immediately adopted a respectful, professional tone. Do you have any instructions for me? Where are you? She sounded displeased. I'm at the office, of course. I lied without missing a beat. Is that so? She sneered. Then opened the door. Open the door? Confused, I walked to the front door and looked through the peephole. Instantly, the blood froze in my veins. Standing right outside the door was none other than Victoria Sterling herself. She was wearing a sleek beige trench coat and sunglasses. Standing behind her, looking like he wanted the earth to swallow him whole, was Arthur. Holy crap. How'd you get here? My brain went into overdrive. It was 3 p.m., prime working hours, and I was standing there in a pair of board shorts and flip-flops, reeking of barbecue smoke, having just returned from my research. If she caught me like this, my days as regional manager were absolutely over. Manager Harper, are you deaf? Open the door. Victoria's voice was rising with anger. I took a deep breath and shouted through the door. Who is it? Salesman? We're not interested. Victoria on the other side. Arthur. I heard Arthur quietly say outside. Ms. Sterling, Manager Harper, doesn't seem to recognize your voice. Victoria's tone dropped to absolute zero. Liam Harper, I'm going to count to 3. If you don't open this door, you can pack your bags and get the hell out. Well, the jig was up. Moving with the speed of lightning, I sprinted back to my office, threw on a dress shirt and slacks in exactly 3 seconds, wildly ran my hands through my hair in front of the mirror, and spritzed breath freshener into my mouth twice. Then, I composed my facial expression into a serious mask of, I was just hard at work, and walked over to open the door. Oh my gosh. Victoria. Arthur. What brings you two all the way out here? I plastered a look of ecstatic surprise on my face, acting as if I had just discovered they were there. Please, come in. Victoria took off her sunglasses, raked her judgmental gaze over me from head to toe, and stepped into the office. When she took in the full scope of the branch office, her eyebrows pulled together tightly, especially when she spotted the dust-covered boxes in the corner and the floral swimming trunks flapping proudly in the breeze on the balcony. Her face went beyond just looking terrible. Arthur, following closely behind her, looked at the slum-like office conditions, his mouth twitching uncontrollably. This is our branch office. Disbelief dripped from Victoria's voice. Yes, indeed. I introduced the place with enthusiasm. Look, Victoria, it may not look like much, but she's got it where it counts. This is our main workspace. Over there is the break room, and inside is the lounge area. How about it? Doesn't it have a cozy, homey feel? Victoria's face was as black as the bottom of a frying pan. Just then, the door to the inner room opened. Chuck walked out, bleary-eyed from his nap. His hair was a bird's nest, and he was wearing a faded Route 66 rib tank top. He stopped when he saw Victoria, then rubbed his eyes. "Oh, we got company." He yawned and looked at me. "A friend of yours, Liam?" My soul nearly left my body. "Liam? I'm the damn manager right now." I immediately started giving him frantic eye signals. "Uncle Chuck. Cough, cough. This is Ms. Sterling, the CEO from headquarters. She's here to inspect our work." Chuck let out an "oh" as the gears finally clicked into place. He immediately stood up straight, adjusted his non-existent collar, and flashed Victoria a goofy, welcoming smile. "Oh my goodness. Ms. Sterling. Welcome, welcome, warmest welcomes. Ms. Sterling, you look even prettier in person than in the photos." Victoria's expression softened just a fraction. "Flattery will get you everywhere. Ms. Sterling, please sit down, have some water." Chuck eagerly offered Victoria the only chair in the room that looked sturdy, then scrambled to pour her a glass of water. Victoria sat down, surveyed the room again, and finally rested her gaze on me. "Manager Harper, you've been here a week. How are you adjusting?" Here it was, the main event. I knew what she was doing. She was waiting for me to complain, to whine, to beg her to transfer me back. I smiled slightly and straightened my posture. "Reporting to the CEO? Excellent." I answered with crisp enunciation. "Under the care and leadership of headquarters, and with Uncle Chuck's help, I have rapidly adapted to the work and life out here. I profoundly feel that Sandstone is a fertile land full of opportunities. Though the branch is currently small, its potential is limitless. I firmly believe that under my leadership, the Sandstone branch will forge a brilliant new future." I delivered my speech with passionate, righteous energy. Chuck nodded enthusiastically beside me, looking at me with absolute adoration. Behind Victoria, Arthur was desperately holding back laughter, his shoulders shaking. As for Victoria, she looked at me like I was a space alien. She was silent for a long time, so long I thought she was going to blow her top on the spot. Finally, she squeezed out a single sentence through her teeth. "Is that right? Well, I look forward to seeing it." She stood up. "Let's go. Show me your market." My heart dropped. "Market? What market is there in this dump?" "The only market is the farmer's market." But I kept the professional smile plastered on my face. "Right away, Victoria. Right this way." What followed was an incredibly surreal scene. I, wearing a suit, led our billionaire CEO and her elite assistant down the dusty, unpaved streets of Sandstone. As you can see, Victoria, this is Sandstone's main artery, Liberty Avenue. This road has witnessed the historical evolution of the town. I continued my deadpan bowls. Victoria, walking in five-figure designer heels on the cracked, pothole-ridden sidewalk, looked increasingly furious. Pedestrians kept throwing us curious looks. A stunning, impeccably dressed woman radiating a 10-foot aura of pure ice, walking down the street with two men who looked like her bodyguards. It was certainly eye-catching. "Manager Harper." Victoria abruptly stopped, pointing at a smoky stand not too far away. "What is that?" I followed her finger. It was Fat Tony's Barbecue, the exact spot I had patronized the night before. A flash of inspiration hit me. "Victoria, that right there is a microcosm of Sandstone's most vibrant market, the nighttime economy. It's also the primary subject of my recent research and observations." Victoria raised an eyebrow. "A barbecue stand?" "No." I corrected her righteously. "It is the manifestation of the food and beverage industry in an undertapped rural market. It represents the truest grassroots demand and consumer potential. Think about it, Victoria. A tiny barbecue stand can generate thousands, sometimes tens of thousands of dollars in cash flow a night." Chapter 4. If our company could enter this lane, consolidating the hundreds of barbecue stands in Sandstone to create a unified supply chain and brand, it would be a billion-dollar market. The more I spoke, the more excited I got, acting as if I could already see myself ringing the bell at the NASDAQ. "Victoria." "Oh." "Arthur." Arthur couldn't hold it in anymore. He turned his back to us, his shoulders shaking violently. Victoria stared at me. She stared for a solid 10 seconds. Then she said coldly, "Fine. Since you see so much potential in it, go eat. When you're done, write me a 3,000-word feasibility report on integrating the Sandstone barbecue industry with our corporate operations and have it on my desk by tomorrow morning." Huh. I thought Victoria was just talking smack out of anger. I didn't realize she was dead serious. That night, she and Arthur checked into the only 4-star hotel in Sandstone. Then, Arthur texted me the hotel address along with a message. "Ms. Sterling says the report needs to be delivered to her room before 8 a.m. tomorrow. I stared at my phone and fell in a deep thought. A 3,000-word report on barbecue? Was she trying to kill me? I was a corporate strategist. If you wanted a business proposal, I was your guy. But a report on barbecue? Aside from tastes good, smells amazing, and gimme 10 more ribs, what else was there to say? But a CEO's word was law. If I didn't produce the report, the consequences would be severe. I sighed and resignedly opened my laptop. It was just a report, right? Liam Harper, had never lost a battle when it came to writing corporate BS. I started by Googling Food and Beverage Industry Analysis Report and downloaded a dozen templates. Then, utilizing the first-hand data I had personally researched with my own mouth over the past few days, I began writing furiously. Introduction: the current state and challenges of the sandstone barbecue industry. Chapter 1. Market size and growth potential analysis. Analyzing the vast prospects of the sandstone barbecue market through multiple dimensions, including demographics, consumer habits, and night economy policies. Chapter 2. Competitor analysis. Taking Fat Tony's Barbecue, the Sister Smokehouse, and Old Man Miller's as case studies to deeply analyze their business models, strengths, and weaknesses. Chapter 3. SWOT analysis of our company entering the barbecue lane. Strengths: brand endorsement, strong capital. Weaknesses: lack of F&B experience. Opportunities: fragmented market, lack of industry leaders. Threats: local flavor barriers, food safety risks. Chapter 4. Strategic planning and implementation path. A 3-step strategy. Step 1. Acquire a top local barbecue joint as a pilot. Step 2. Establish centralized ghost kitchens and a cold chain logistics system to achieve standardization. Step 3. Launch the high-end barbecue brand Smoke and Sand, integrating online and offline channels for a national rollout. Conclusion: this project possesses high feasibility and profit margins. It is recommended that corporate establish a task force to push this forward immediately. As I wrote, I couldn't help but admire my own work. I'm an absolute genius. An hour later, a visually appealing, data-rich, logically rigorous, 5,000-word strategic feasibility analysis on pioneering the rural Southwest market via the barbecue industry was fresh out of the oven. I even threw together a matching PowerPoint presentation. At 7:30 the next morning, feeling fresh and energized, I appeared at the door of the hotel room. I knocked. Arthur opened the door. He had massive dark circles under his eyes and looked incredibly haggard. "Good morning, Manager Harper," he greeted me weakly. "Morning, Arthur. Didn't sleep well?" Arthur smiled bitterly and lowered his voice. "Don't even mention it. Ms. Sterling was so furious last night, she didn't sleep a wink. She paced back and forth in her room all night. I'm right next door, and I had to listen to the sound of her heels clicking until dawn. I felt a surge of petty satisfaction. Serves her right." I walked into the room. Victoria was sitting on the sofa drinking coffee. She did look like she hadn't slept well. Her complexion was a bit pale. When she saw me, she let out a cold snort. "Where's the report?" "Right here, Victoria." I respectfully handed over the printed report and the PPT slides. She took it. As soon as she saw the title on the cover, her eyebrows shot up. She casually flipped through the first few pages. The speed of her page turning grew slower and slower. The expression on her face shifted from disdain to surprise and finally to utmost gravity. Eventually, she closed the report, looked up at me, and stared with a gaze as complex as an advanced calculus problem. "You wrote all of this by yourself in one night?" "Yes, Victoria." I smiled modestly. "It mostly comes from my daily accumulation of insights and my sensitivity to the market." Victoria fell silent. She looked down at the report again, then back up at me. It felt exactly like a professor trying to give a failing student a trick question, only for the student to hand in a thesis ready for publication in a major journal. Arthur was stunned too. He leaned in to peek at a few pages, his jaw dropping wide enough to fit an egg. "Manager Harper, you really are a freak of nature," he praised genuinely. "You flatter me." Ahem. She cleared her throat, trying to salvage her pride. "It's passable. It shows some initiative, though it's overly idealized and many operational details are missing. However, as an initial research proposal, it barely passes." I roll my eyes internally. Barely passes? If I took this report to a consulting firm, I could sell it for 50 grand. But outwardly, I maintained a look of absolute deference. "Thank you for the guidance, Victoria. I will study it more deeply." Victoria gave a non-committal and tossed the report onto the coffee table. "Since you have so much confidence in the sandstone market, then keep up the good work." She stood up, fully restoring her aura of the iceberg CEO. "I'm flying back to New York this afternoon. Your KPI for this month is to figure out the exact operational data for the 3 barbecue joints mentioned in this report. Have it on my desk by the end of the month. With that, she turned on her heels and walked away without looking back. Arthur gave me a sympathetic glance before quickly following her out. I stood there, looking at the report on the table, and smiled. Figure out the operational data? Didn't that basically mean I was mandated to eat barbecue every day for work? Was it my birthday? Victoria, oh Victoria. Every time you try to make my life difficult, it ends up being a massive perk. Did you owe me a life debt in a past life or something? Victoria's first inspection thus ended with a whimper. She had barely left before Chuck called my phone in a panic. Manager Harper, bad news. Disaster. His voice was frantic. What's wrong, Uncle Chuck? Slow down. Corporate accounting just sent an email saying our branch's operational budget for this month has been slashed by 80%. I froze for a second. Slashed? Our branch barely had a budget to begin with. A few $1,000 a month, just enough for rent, electricity, and a small stipend for Chuck and me. If they cut 80%, the remaining cash wouldn't even cover the power bill. I didn't even need to ask. This was definitely Victoria's revenge. Since she couldn't beat me in a frontal assault, she was resorting to dirty tactics. Manager Harper, what are we going to do? We don't even have rent for next month. Chuck was pacing like a cat on a hot tin roof. I wasn't panicked at all. I smiled into the phone. Uncle Chuck, don't worry. God never shuts a door without opening a window. I hung up the phone and looked out at the brilliant blue Nevada sky, a mysterious smile curling my lips. Victoria, you think cutting off my supplies will force me to surrender? So naive. You're just forcing me to pull a rabbit out of my hat. Victoria probably thought that by cutting my budget, I'd run out of options and come crying, begging for mercy over the phone. Unfortunately for her, she miscalculated one thing. The thing I, Liam Harper, was best at was dancing wildly on the edge of the rules. That afternoon, I called Chuck into the office. Uncle Chuck, exactly how much money is left in the company account? Chuck pulled out the ledger, his face wrinkled in despair. Plus the $50 you pitched in for the internet. I mean, last month's profits, we have exactly $450.80. That's enough. I snapped my fingers. I opened my laptop and logged into the company's official TikTok account. The account had been centrally registered by headquarters, but since the Sandstone branch had 0 operations, it had been abandoned. Follower count, 0. I changed the account handle to Smoke and Sand, the billionaire CEO's guide to desert dining. I swapped the profile picture to an official promotional photo of Victoria taken at the annual corporate gala. In the picture, she was wearing a stunning evening gown, looking regal, aloof, and radiating pure boss energy. Chuck watched from the side, absolutely flabbergasted. And Manager Harper, what are you doing? Using Ms. Sterling's likeness. If she finds out, she'll skin us alive. What are you afraid of? I remained utterly unfazed. We are promoting the company. Look at our handle, the CEO's guide. This is called celebrity leverage. We are utilizing the CEO's personal IP to generate value for the corporation. Chuck listened dazed. It sounded like it made sense, but it also felt like something was horribly wrong. Then, what exactly are we promoting? This. I dug through the pile of my market research results and pulled out a photo. The photo showed a local Sandstone specialty, air-dried beef jerky. It looked dark, rustic, and frankly, completely unappealing. Is that Old Man Miller's beef jerky? Chuck recognized it. That stuff is insanely expensive. Like $60 a pound. Tastes damn good, though. Chapter 5. Uncle Chuck, go take our remaining $400 and buy up every last piece of beef jerky Old Man Miller has. Huh? Buy it all? Then what are we going to eat next month? Trust me, you won't starve. Chuck left, half doubting, half believing. Half an hour later, he returned with 2 massive bags of beef jerky. I set up my phone on a tripod, laid the jerky out on the desk, and placed my 5,000-word barbecue report right next to it as a background prop. Then, I cleared my throat and began my very first live stream. What's up, guys? Welcome to the Smoke and Sand stream. I'm your host, the CEO's executive assistant, Liam. I fabricated a new title for myself on the spot. Today, we're not selling lip gloss, and we're not selling skincare. We are selling exactly one thing, straight from the depths of the desert. The premium artisanal beef jerky that even our billionaire CEO can't stop eating. I picked up a piece of jerky and held it to the camera. Look at this, guys. The texture, the color. 100% natural, 0 additives. Every single fiber of this beef has absorbed the pure essence of the Nevada sun. It's chewy, it's savory, and it is the ultimate late-night snack for our CEO when she's up analyzing financial reports and yelling at employees. There was barely anyone in the stream at first, just a handful of random users who had clicked in because the words billionaire CEO caught their eye. Host, who is your CEO? Is she hot? The CEO's ultimate late-night snack? Stop capping. I smiled faintly and turned the camera toward my laptop screen. Displayed prominently on the monitor was the cover page of my PowerPoint presentation, featuring Victoria's photo and the bold title of the barbecue report. Guys, do you see this? This is our CEO of a publicly traded company. Net worth in the billions. She personally led a team 2,000 miles into the desert just to hunt down the most authentic local flavors. This 5,000-word report on barbecue was written by our CEO, pulling an all-nighter. And this jerky right here is the energy supplement, highly recommended in her report. I successfully packaged Victoria as a die-hard foodie CEO who would stop at nothing for a good meal. Instantly, the chat exploded. Holy crap, are you serious? I recognize her. I've seen her in Forbes. Is she really that relatable in real life? LMAO, a ruthless billionaire CEO obsessed with barbecue? And she writes her own industry reports? What kind of god-tier plot is this? Going 2,000 miles into the desert just for jerky? I'm in love. Stan the CEO. Bro, stop talking. Drop the link. I want to buy the CEO's favorite jerky. The viewer count started to skyrocket. 100 people, 500 people, 1,000 people. I struck while the iron was hot. Guys, this jerky normally retails at specialty stores for $90 a pound. Today, right here in my stream, it's not $90, it's not $80, it's just $68. CEO's exclusive authorized price. Today only, we only have 20 pounds in stock, and when it's gone, the stream ends. Drop the link. Hurry. Damn, gotta be fast. I pinned the pre-prepared product link. Almost instantly, the inventory was wiped out. It's gone. Host, I didn't even get one. Restock. We demand a restock. I looked at the sold-out tag on the screen and the rapidly climbing sales revenue in the background, a satisfied smile spreading across my face. Beside me, Chuck was utterly stupefied. He stood there with his mouth hanging open, pointing at the phone, then at me, completely unable to form words. And Manager Harper, it's all sold. Standard operating procedure. I calmly ended the stream. Uncle Chuck, don't just stand there. Let's pack these boxes. That night, Chuck and I packed boxes until midnight. The next day, I took the stream's revenue, deducted the initial costs, and transferred the remaining $800 in profit straight to the corporate accounting department through the company portal. Memo: Sandstone Branch live stream operations initial profit. Having done all that, I stretched lazily and went back to researching my barbecue map. A master hiding his achievements in the shadows. Meanwhile, back at the New York headquarters, Victoria woke up the next morning to an epic, company-wide public execution. As soon as she walked into the building, she noticed that every single employee was looking at her strangely. It was a complex emotion, a mix of awe, curiosity, and the desperate urge to laugh, but being too terrified to do so. Frowning, she strode into her office. Arthur followed her in, his expression looking worse than if he had been crying. Victoria. Spit out. You're trending. What? Victoria froze. It wasn't unusual for her to trend. She was a regular on the financial news circuits. It's not business news. Arthur swallowed hard, pulled out his phone, and handed it to her. It's pop culture trending. Victoria took the phone and saw the blindingly bright headline. Hashtag billion foes crazy for jerky. The accompanying image was a photoshopped masterpiece combining her glamorous evening gown photo with a dark, crusty piece of beef jerky. Clicking into the hashtag revealed clipped segments of my livestream. In the video, I was speaking eloquently, framing her as an ultimate foodie who was willing to abandon her billionaire lifestyle to personally author industry reports just for the love of barbecue. The comment section had gone completely rabid. The contrast. I love it. The Ice Queen actually has a barbecue queen living inside her. Instastan. From today on, Victoria Sterling is my idol, begging the CEO to publish a book. The Billionaire's Guide to Barbecue. I'll be the first in line. Am I the only one curious about that cute assistant? He's handsome, has a great voice, and is so bold. Isn't he afraid of getting fired? Victoria's face visibly shifted from white to red to purple and finally to a stormy, iron gray. Her hand, gripping the phone, trembled slightly. The temperature in the office plummeted to absolute zero. Liam, Harper. An earth-shattering roar erupted from the top-floor executive suite. Legend has it the entire building heard it. Arthur jumped so violently he nearly dropped to his knees. Victoria, please calm down. Breathe. Calm down. Victoria pointed at the phone, laughing out of sheer fury. What does he think I am? A dancing monkey? Arthur. Yes, ma'am. Look into it. I want to see the Sandstone Branch's financials for this month. Right away. 5 minutes later, Arthur returned with a printed spreadsheet, his expression incredibly bizarre. Victoria, the sandstone branch, yesterday, generated a net profit of $827. Victoria. She snatched the report from his hands. Looking at the glaring number in the memo note reading livestream operations profit, she completely stiffened. She had been fully prepared to bring down the hammer of God upon him. But instead of committing a fireable offense, the bastard had actually generated revenue for the company. How could she blow up at him for that? She couldn't very well say, "You made the company money, therefore I'm firing you." Could she? Victoria felt like she had just punched a wall of cotton. She had all this rage with nowhere to vent it, and it was causing physical pain in her chest. She sat down heavily in her chair, breathing heavily. It took a long time before she squeezed a single sentence through her teeth. Give him a bonus. Arthur, huh? Give him this month's Employee of the Month award. Victoria ground out. The bonus is $75. When I received the $75 Employee of the Month bonus, I was sitting at Fat Tony's barbecue, passionately arguing with the owner. Tony, there's something wrong with this brisket. Yesterday, it had that perfect crispy bark, and today, it's soft and mushy. Are you discriminating against me? Tony, a 200-pound giant of a man, stood there waving his tongs, spit flying from his mouth. Eat it or get out. This brisket came off the smoker fresh this morning. You calling me a liar? Fresh off the smoker? Do you think I'm an idiot? A cow has plenty of brisket. Why do I get the bad end? You totally saved the good burnt ends for that pretty girl at the next table. While we were shouting at each other, the company text message arrived. Sterling Group, dear Mr. Harper, congratulations on winning this month's Employee of the Month award. A bonus of $75 has been deposited into your payroll account. Keep up the good work and continue to strive for excellence. I read the text and laughed out loud. This woman, Victoria, was really something, furious enough to kill, yet she still had to hold her nose and issue me a bonus. She probably squeezed this $75 out through gritted teeth. I shoved the phone back into my pocket and grinned at the barbecue owner. All right, Tony, I'm done arguing. I'm in a good mood today. Give me another half-pound of burnt ends. And make sure it's the good stuff. Tony glared at me, muttering psycho under his breath, but turned around to start slicing anyway. I became a corporate legend by selling beef jerky on a live stream. Not only did I dodge punishment, I got a bonus. Word spread through the company intranet like wildfire. My work buddies in the group chat were losing their minds laughing. Dave, Liam, you are a god. I just saw the intranet announcement. Employee of the Month, Liam Harper. Ha ha ha. I can only imagine how black Victoria's face was when she signed it. Chris, $75. She's so generous. Is she tipping a beggar? Me, be content. That $75 cost her a piece of her soul. Josh, Liam, you're the hottest commodity in the company right now. So many girls are asking about you, saying you're handsome, talented, and hilarious. Me, tell them to calm down. I am but a humble man exiled to the frontier. I'm not worthy. Despite my modesty, my life grew even more luxurious. Since the first livestream was a hit, I officially made e-commerce the branch's side hustle. I dragged Chuck along and officially founded the Smoke and Sand Task Force. I was the CEO and lead anchor. Chuck was the COO, chief buyer, and head of packaging. Chapter 6. Our daily routine consisted of driving that rusted pickup truck around Sandstone and the surrounding rural towns, hunting down obscure local specialties. Artisanal prickly pear jelly, wild desert sage, smoked venison. As long as it was good, we hauled it onto the live stream. My hosting style also grew increasingly unhinged. Guys, what I'm bringing you today is this wild desert sage tea, harvested from a 3,000-foot elevation. When our CEO was locked in negotiations with a rival company and didn't sleep for 3 days, this was what kept her alive. Drink this, and you too will have the stamina to verbally destroy your clients. This artisanal trail mix is our CEO's secret weapon for corporate retreats. Don't let her icy exterior fool you. She's got crazy stamina. She can hike up 5 flights of stairs without even breathing hard. I seamlessly blended Victoria's glorious exploits with the products I was selling, weaving tales that sounded completely plausible. The viewers absolutely ate it up. They didn't just buy the products. They camped in the stream every day just to hear me spill the CEO's secrets. My follower count quickly broke 100,000. Smoke and Sand became the hottest intellectual property under the corporate umbrella. Every month, I was turning a handsome profit for headquarters. As for me, I had become a mythical figure within the company. A man sitting in the desert, 2,000 miles away, remote controlling corporate public relations, and making the CEO simultaneously love and hate him. Victoria had completely run out of options to deal with me. She couldn't cut my budget anymore because I was self-funding. She couldn't accuse me of slacking off because my monthly performance reports were blindingly spectacular. And she definitely couldn't transfer me back. She had exiled me in front of the entire company. Bringing me back now would be a massive slap to her own face. She could do nothing but watch helplessly as I thrived in the Wild West, living my best, carefree life. I could just imagine her sitting in her luxurious corner office, watching my live stream clips, stomping her feet in rage, but entirely powerless to stop me. It was intoxicating. That feeling of, you hate my guts, but you can't touch me, was more satisfying than eating 100 plates of ribs. Time flew, and soon it was the end of the year. It was time for the company's annual gala. In previous years, the gala was held in the grand ballroom at headquarters, and all branch employees were flown back to attend. But this year, due to some budget shifts, it was a virtual hybrid event. The main venue was at headquarters, with the branch offices participating via video link. On the day of the gala, Chuck and I spruced up the office. We hung a banner on the wall that read, "Sandstone Branch wishes the corporate gala great success." We set out plates of fruit and sunflower seeds on the desk. Chuck and I, both wearing brand new suits, pulled up folding chairs and sat squarely in front of the webcam. At 7 p.m., the gala officially started. Over at headquarters, the lighting was spectacular, filled with beautiful people in suits and gowns. Victoria, as the big boss, was naturally the center of attention. She wore a stunning, vibrant red dress tonight, looking absolutely radiant, though her face still wore that familiar "don't mess with me" expression. The MC went down the line, connecting with the branch offices. "Hello, Chicago branch. How are we doing tonight? Boston branch, let me see your hands." When it came to us, the MC's voice went up an octave. "Next up, let's connect with our most mysterious and legendary department this year, the Sandstone branch. Manager Harper, Uncle Chuck, how are you guys doing?" Chuck, and I immediately waved at the camera. "Good evening to everyone at headquarters. The Sandstone branch sends our regards." Our faces appeared on the massive jumbotron in the main hall, along with the background of our completely bare, depressing apartment walls. The contrast against the opulent headquarters was jarring. The entire hall erupted in laughter. "Haha, is that the legendary Sandstone branch? That is way too rugged. I feel so bad for Liam, having to generate revenue in such harsh conditions." Liam and Uncle Chuck looked so cute. Sitting at the main table, Victoria looked at my grinning face on the screen, the corner of her mouth twitching. The gala proceeded as planned. Leadership speeches, outstanding employee awards, and then the raffle. The raffle was the climax of the night. This year's grand prize was a $70,000 BMW. Everyone's hearts were in their throats. Employee headshots began spinning rapidly on the jumbotron. "Stop." At Victoria's command, the screen froze. A handsome headshot appeared dead center on the screen. It was me. The hall was dead silent for a second before exploding into deafening cheers and applause. "Holy crap. It's Liam, the chosen one. That luck is unreal." I was a bit stunned myself. I won a damn BMW? I looked at the screen, then at Chuck. Chuck was more excited than I was. He grabbed me, jumping up and down. "Manager Harper, we're rich. We hit the jackpot." Over the feed, the MC shouted excitedly, "Congratulations to our Sandstone regional manager, Liam Harper. You've won this year's grand prize, a brand new BMW. Manager Harper, do you have an acceptance speech?" I cleared my throat, looked directly into the camera, and flashed a brilliant smile. "I'd like to thank the company, the leadership, and specifically Victoria. I promise to keep working hard and creating more value for the company." I gave the standard, polite corporate response. Then I pivoted. "However, Victoria, I have one small request." Victoria raised an eyebrow. "Speak. Can I just take the cash value for the car?" I asked earnestly. "You know how it is. The roads out here in Sandstone are terrible. If I drove a BMW out here, the undercarriage would be wrecked in a week. Plus, parking is a nightmare. I don't exactly have a garage. If I take the cash, I can reinvest that money to expand our live streaming operations and generate even larger profits for the company." My speech was a masterclass in corporate self-sacrifice and big-picture thinking. The entire hall went silent. Everyone stared at Victoria, waiting for her reaction. Victoria stared at me, her eyes looking like they could shoot fire. She knew damn well that I just didn't want to deal with the hassle of shipping a car. I just wanted the money. But my reasoning was flawless. If she refused, she'd look like she was hindering the branch's business development. She looked petty. She was silent for a very long time, so long that everyone thought she was about to explode. Finally, she gritted out 2 words. "You may." The hall erupted in applause again. Everyone felt that our CEO was truly a generous, forward-thinking leader. Only I knew that she was probably wishing she could crawl through the internet cables and strangle me. The gala continued. I didn't pay much attention to the rest of the performances. Chuck and I were already discussing whether we should use the 70 grand to upgrade to a bigger office, or just rent out the nicest restaurant in Sandstone for a month. We were having a blast and cracked open a few beers to celebrate. After a few drinks, Chuck started feeling the buzz. He threw an arm around my shoulder, his words slurring. Liam, hiccup, I'm going to tell you a secret. What secret? I think. Hiccup. Victoria, she's into you. I nearly choked on my beer. Uncle Chuck, you're hammered. She likes me? She wants me dead, more like. No, listen to me. Chuck looked incredibly secretive. Think about it. Why did she transfer you to this godforsaken dust bowl? It's because there are bad people at headquarters who want to poach you. She was trying to, hiccup, protect you by hiding you away. I couldn't help but laugh at his bizarre soap opera logic. Uncle Chuck, you've been watching too many spy dramas. Protect me? She just purely can't stand the sight of me. You don't know squat. Chuck got agitated and slapped the table. A woman's heart is an ocean of secrets. The more she torments you, the more she cares about you. Look at her, constantly finding excuses to come out to Sandstone. If it's not an inspection, it's signing a contract. Why do you think she does it? She just wants to see you. She's just coming to pick on me. Picking on you is an excuse. Missing you is the truth. Chuck declared with absolute certainty. I bet you anything, within 3 days, she's going to show up here again. As we chatted, we were completely oblivious to the fact that the webcam light in front of us was still glowing green. Our entire conversation, word for word, was being broadcast directly to the main Jumbotron at the corporate gala in New York. The entire venue, thousands of people, was dead silent. You could hear a pin drop. Everyone's eyes were bugging out as they watched the massive screen, witnessing two drunk men loudly gossiping about the CEO's love life. At the main table, Victoria's face was completely black. The wine glass in her hand was groaning under the pressure of her grip. Arthur, standing behind her, looked like he was about to pass out. It was over. This time, it was truly over. Chapter 7. When did Chuck and I realize something was wrong? It was when my phone began vibrating off the table like it was possessed. I picked it up. 99 plus unread notifications on iMessage. All from my work buddies. Dave, holy shit. Liam, what are you doing? Chris, the feed. The live feed. You guys are still on the Jumbotron in the main hall. Shut up, you idiot. Josh, you're dead. Liam, you need to hop a freight train and flee the state tonight. Victoria looks like she's about to commit murder. My brain buzzed, and I sober up instantly. I snapped my head up and looked at the laptop in front of us. The little green light next to the webcam was indeed still on. On the screen, the gala was still ongoing, but in the background audio, I could clearly hear the echo of the conversation Chuck and I just had. The more she torments you, the more she cares about you. Picking on you is an excuse. Missing you is the truth. Me? Chuck realized it too. He looked at the screen, then at me. The flush of alcohol vanished from his face, replaced by a ghost-like pallor. And Manager Harper, is that? I slammed the laptop shut. The world was finally quiet, but both of our hearts had plummeted into the abyss. We looked at each other, and we both saw the exact same thought in each other's eyes. We are so dead. My voice trembled slightly. What? What did you just say on camera? Chuck looked like he was about to burst into tears. I said, Miss Sterling likes you. And I said she transferred you to protect you. My vision went dark. I nearly passed out on the spot. This wasn't just corporate suicide. This was publicly announcing our own executions on national television. Run. That was the only thought left in my brain. I grabbed Chuck, bolted out of the office, hopped in a rusted pickup truck, and fled into the night. We hid out in a dingy little motel on the outskirts of town, shivering in terror all night. I didn't dare turn my phone on until next morning. The moment it booted up, texts and missed calls flooded in like a bomb going off. Messages from the brothers, concerned texts from colleagues, and dozens of missed calls from Arthur. I opened the company's Slack. The main channel had exploded. Last night's hot mic incident had become the biggest piece of gossip in the history of the company. Screen recordings of Chuck and my conversation were circulating everywhere. Now, the entire company, from the janitors to the board of directors, knew the rumor. Our untouchable Ice Queen CEO was supposedly harboring a secret crush on the employee she exiled. The tea was piping hot. I scrolled through a few secretly snapped photos from the venue. One showed Victoria, her face like thunder, gripping a wine glass that looked ready to shatter. Another showed Arthur passing out and being dragged away by 2 security guards. And the last one showed Victoria sitting alone in the empty ballroom after the gala ended, her back looking incredibly lonely. My heart sank. I took it too far. This time I really messed up. While I was staring blankly at my phone, a call came in. It was Arthur. I hesitated, but finally picked it up. Hello, Arthur. You absolute menace. You finally answered the phone. Arthur's voice was a hysterical, tearful shout. Do you have any idea that you almost got me killed? Arthur, calm down. I can't calm down. Do you know what I went through last night? Victoria mentally murdered me 1,000 times. 1,000 times. I start shaking every time I see the color red now. So, how is Victoria? Right now? I asked cautiously. There was a long silence on the other end. After a long pause, Arthur spoke in an incredibly complex tone. Victoria didn't come to work today. Didn't come to work? That wasn't like her at all. Victoria was a notorious workaholic. Even with a 104-degree fever, she would be at her desk at exactly 8:00 a.m. Where? Where did she go? I don't know. Arthur sounded lost. She texted me this morning, saying she was taking some time off and leaving the company in the hands of the VPs. And then, I couldn't reach her. My stomach dropped. Time off? Was the phrase, time off, even in Victoria's dictionary? Liam. Arthur suddenly used my first name, his tone turning dead serious. I think. What Chuck said. Might be. True. What's true? Victoria. Might actually be into you. Me? Arthur. Did the shock fry your brain? My brain is fine. Arthur sounded agitated. Think about it. Hasn't everything Victoria done this past year been incredibly weird? She transferred you away using a ridiculously flimsy excuse. She constantly found absurd reasons to go visit you. She watched your live streams, got furious, but only ever gave you a slap on the wrist, even giving you a bonus. Is that normal? That's not her at all. I fell silent. Hearing Arthur lay it out like that, it did seem off. Victoria's attitude toward me had always been contradictory. On one hand, she couldn't stand me and found ways to make my life difficult. But on the other hand, she never actually brought the hammer down on me. Every punishment inadvertently turned into an assist for my lifestyle. Could it be? I didn't dare finish the thought. Liam, listen to me. Arthur pleaded earnestly. Victoria is a very proud person. She never exposes her weaknesses to anyone. What happened last night definitely hit her hard. She's all alone right now, hiding who knows where. I'm really worried about her. What? What do you want me to do? Go find her, Arthur said. You tied this knot, and you're the only one who can untie it. I think you owe it to yourself and to her to get an answer. I hung up the phone and sat on the motel bed, smoking half a pack of cigarettes. Beside me, Chuck didn't dare breathe. And Manager Harper, are we getting fired? I looked at him and shook my head. It might be worse than getting fired. I stood up and grabbed my jacket. Uncle Chuck, stay here and wait for my call. Manager, where are you going? To fix the problem. I walked out of the motel. The Nevada sun was as blinding as ever, but my mind was a total mess. Go find Victoria? Find her where? I had no idea where she'd go. I pulled out my phone and, acting purely on instinct, opened the TikTok account for Smoke and Sand. In the back-end inbox, there were a few unread direct messages, all from an anonymous burner account. The first one was from 6 months ago. The beef jerky was decent. Pick something that actually tastes good next time. The second one was from 3 months ago. The sage tea is too bitter. Stop selling it. The third was from a month ago. Trail mix. Thanks. The fourth was from last night. Sent at 3 a.m. after the gala ended. It was just one word. Idiot. My heart felt like it had been hit with a sledgehammer. I tapped on the anonymous user's profile. The avatar was default gray, with 0 identifying info, but I knew exactly who it was. I pulled up my dialer and called Arthur. Arthur, check if Victoria owns any special properties. Special properties? Like a beach house or a cabin in the woods. Somewhere she'd go to hide when she's upset. Arthur was silent for a moment. Yes, Arthur said. In Malibu, California. A place called Pacific Crest Estates. Victoria has an oceanfront house there. Ever since her mother passed away, she goes there for a while every year. Malibu. I hung up, immediately opened my airline app, and bought a ticket to California. This time, I didn't hesitate for a single second. When the plane landed at LAX, it was drizzling. The air was damp and warm, a stark contrast to the dry heat of sandstone. I rented a car and drove up the coast to Pacific Crest Estates in Malibu. It was an ultra-high-end gated community facing the ocean, quiet and secluded. I found Victoria's house, a white, 3-story villa with a beautiful garden. Lights were on inside, meaning someone was home. I stood at the front door, took a deep breath of the salty ocean air, and pressed the doorbell. I waited a long time before the door finally opened. It was Victoria. She was wearing oversized loungewear, completely barefaced, her long hair falling loosely around her shoulders. Stripped of her usual flawless makeup and aggressive aura, she looked less aloof and far softer, even a little fragile. When she saw me, she visibly froze, a flash of surprise and panic crossing her eyes. Why? Why are you here? I'm here to fix the problem, I said. She fell silent and stepped aside to let me in. The interior design was minimalist, mostly warm whites, giving it a cozy feel. Beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows in the living room was the churning Pacific Ocean. On the coffee table sat an empty bottle of wine and a glass. Looked like she hadn't slept last night, either. Something to drink? She asked, her voice a little hoarse. Water is fine. She poured me a glass, and we sat down on opposite ends of the sofa. For a long time, neither of us spoke. The silence was so awkward, I could have dug a 3-bedroom apartment into the floor with my toes. I was the first to break the ice. About the gala. I am sorry. The hand holding her water glass paused, but she didn't look at me. There's nothing to be sorry for. It was my own fault for not handling things well. Her voice was very quiet. Chuck was drunk. He was just talking nonsense. Don't take it to heart. I tried to explain. She looked up at me, a hint of self-deprecating humor in her eyes. Talking nonsense? She asked softly. Liam, do you really think he was just talking nonsense? I looked into her eyes. Those eyes, which were always as cold as ice, were currently swirling with emotions I couldn't decipher. There was grievance, frustration, and a sliver of hope. My heart skipped a beat. I didn't know how to answer. Chapter 8. Why I transferred you to Sandstone. Did you think I was just getting revenge? Just trying to make your life miserable? She continued. I stayed silent. Wasn't that exactly what happened? She offered a bitter smile, as if reading my mind. I admit, at first, I really couldn't stand the sight of you. You clearly have top-tier talent, but you always act so apathetic. Like you don't care about anything. You clock in on the dot, clock out on the dot, and treat quiet quitting like it's a religion. I hated your attitude. I felt like you were wasting your genius. I wanted to push you, force you to be ambitious. I gave you the hardest clients, the most complex projects. I wanted to see you sweat. But you always resolved them effortlessly. You even had enough free time to code a slacking app. As she spoke, a helpless smile touched the corners of her mouth. I had absolutely no leverage over you. I couldn't fire you because your metrics were unbeatable. I couldn't even yell at you because you never made a mistake. So, I resorted to the stupidest method possible, getting you out of my sight. I thought if I threw you out into the middle of the desert, you'd snap. You'd come begging me. As long as you yielded just one side, I'd have an excuse to bring you back, promote you, and give you the best resources. I listened completely dumbfounded. Wait. So she'd torture me for half a year, playing this massive game of 4D chess just to force me to be ambitious? What kind of twisted logic was that? But I never expected that you would actually enjoy it. A trace of grievance leaked into her voice. You lived better out in Sandstone than anyone else. Eating barbecue, doing live streams, winning the grand prize. You forgot I even existed. You never, not even once, took the initiative to call me. Looking at her slightly reddened eyes, something inside me suddenly softened. So she wasn't an iceberg. She was just a clumsy woman who wrapped herself in an impenetrable armor because she didn't know how to express her feelings. Then, after the gala, why did you suddenly disappear? I asked. At the mention of the gala, her face flushed crimson, the colors spreading all the way to her ears. She looked down, her voice dropping to a whisper. It was too humiliating. Seeing her like this, so completely different from the untouchable CEO on her high horse. I couldn't help but chuckle. So, what Chuck said was the truth. I mustered my courage and asked the million-dollar question. She stiffened and didn't answer, but her face, so red it looked ready to bleed, already told me everything I needed to know. I felt my heart beating so fast it was about to jump out of my throat. So it wasn't just in my head. The feeling was mutual. I looked at her. She looked out at the ocean. Silence stretched between us. I suddenly felt like I needed to do something. I stood up, walked over to her, and under her astonished gaze, dropped down on one knee. She jumped back. WH, what are you doing? I looked up, giving her the most sincere look I had ever mustered in my life. Victoria. What? I yield. I said, look, I'm short $50 on my KPIs this month. Can I borrow it from you? Victoria. She froze for a moment, and then, on that face that had been frozen for years, a smile finally bloomed. It was like the winter snow melting to reveal the spring. It was so beautiful it made my head spin. She laughed, and as she laughed, tears rolled down her cheeks. She reached out and smacked me hard on the forehead. Idiot. And just like that, Victoria and I reached an understanding in the most bizarre way possible. There were no flowers, No grand confessions, no vows of eternal love. Just a "can I borrow $50" and an affectionate smack to the head. But we both knew that something fundamental had shifted. We spent the entire afternoon in the beach house. She told me about her childhood, about her overbearing father, her mother who passed away too soon, and how she had to stand alone against a boardroom full of wolves to secure her position. Only then did I realize how much hidden pain and loneliness lay beneath her icy armor. And for the first time, I took off my cynical mask in front of her. I told her about my unreliable dad, about how I took on insane freelance gigs in college just to pay rent, and why I firmly believe that slacking off is the true meaning of life. We talked endlessly, making up for years of missed conversations in a single afternoon. That night, she cooked for the very first time, and she nearly burned the kitchen down. In the end, I had to step in and save the day, using the few eggs in the fridge and a pack of instant ramen to create a deluxe ocean view ramen banquet. We sat by the floor-to-ceiling windows, looking out at the dark ocean waves, eating instant noodles. She ate heartily, a satisfied smile on her face. "Liam, yeah, your ramen is better than a Michelin star restaurant. Of course, I'm a master chef whose true calling was delayed by a barbecue report." She laughed, then suddenly remembered something. "Oh, by the way, why did you think to look into my father trying to arrange a marriage for me?" "Ah, right, I hadn't mentioned that part yet. Before I flew out to California, I used my slacking off time to hack into the corporate board's internal servers. I originally just wanted to see if there was some board member pulling strings to get me transferred. Instead, I found a strategic partnership memorandum signed by Victoria's father and the head of another corporate dynasty. One of the clauses involved a marriage alliance between their children. The intended groom was a notorious billionaire playboy who had been trying to get his foot in the door of our company's upper management for years. It clicked instantly. Victoria transferring me away was her trying to protect me. She knew that if I stayed at headquarters, given my talents and her special attention toward me, I would become a massive target for her intended fiancé. She would rather take the blame for being a tyrant and exiling dissidents than leave me in the crosshairs. She sent me to the one place where nobody could touch me. This idiot. She always used the most hurtful, clumsy methods to protect the people she cared about. When I told her what I did, she was stunned. You hacked the board's servers. Standard operating procedure." I casually sipped my ramen broth. While I was at it, I took a little tour of her fiancé's personal computer. I bundled up his chat logs with a dozen Instagram models, his wire transfers, and some, educational material, and emailed them to his father. Oh, and I BCC'd your dad too. Victoria's eyes widened perfectly round. So, barring a miracle, that arranged marriage is dead in the water. Furthermore, that playboy will likely be spending the next 3 years studying mineral resources in a remote corner of Africa. I shrugged. "You mess with my people? I won't just ruin your reputation. I'll show you exactly what the iron fist of karma looks like." Victoria stared at me, speechless for a long time. Finally, she muttered faintly, "Liam, you are an absolute demon. I try my best." We spent a glorious week in Malibu. No work, no stress. During the day, we walked hand in hand on the beach, picking up seashells. At night, we curled up on the sofa watching movies and eating junk food. I discovered that Victoria wasn't an ice queen at all. She would laugh so hard at comedy movies that she'd double over. She'd pout if we ran out of her favorite ice cream. She loved to sleep in, and every morning I had to threaten her with, "If you don't get up, I'm eating your breakfast," just to coax her out of bed. She was like a girl who had finally been unsealed, showing me her truest, most adorable self. And I willingly became her personal chef, software engineer, and human pillow. This idyllic life lasted for about a week. Eventually, Arthur's desperate calls finally reached us. "Bosses, both of you, did you two elope? The company is exploding. If you don't come back, I'm going to have to commit seppuku to apologize to the board." Victoria and I looked at each other, both seeing the reluctance in each other's eyes. But we knew the vacation was over. We booked tickets to fly back to New York the next day. Before boarding the plane, I got a call from Chuck. "Manager Harper, look at the news." Chuck's voice was cracking with excitement. Confused, I opened the news app on my phone. A pop culture headline jumped out at me. "Shocking. Corporate gala hot mic incident reveals secret romance between billionaire CEO and exiled employee." Clicking the link revealed the full video of Chuck and my conversation at the virtual gala. But there was a follow-up. It included security footage of Chuck and me throwing our bags into the rusted pickup truck and fleeing into the night. It had footage of me flying solo to LAX and ringing the doorbell of a Malibu beach house. And finally, a paparazzi photo of Victoria and me holding hands as we walked along the beach, taken from behind. At the bottom of the article was a quote from a relationship expert. This is a romance straight out of a movie between a domineering CEO and a laid-back employee. It shows us that true love can bridge a distance of 2,000 miles and cross massive social divides. We wish them the best. Me? I handed the phone to Victoria. She read it and fell silent. She was silent for a full 60 seconds. Chapter 9. Then, she looked up at me and asked deadpan, Liam, is it too late for us to immigrate to Mars tonight? When Victoria and I walked hand in hand through the front doors of the New York corporate headquarters, we received treatment usually reserved for A-list celebrities. From the security guards at the entrance, to the receptionists, to the colleagues we bumped into in the elevator. Everyone who saw us had the exact same reaction. Their eyes would bug out, then they'd immediately drop their heads, pretending to look at their phones or tie their shoes. But their aggressively twitching lips and shaking shoulders completely gave them away. The entire building was steeped in a bizarre, joyous atmosphere that screamed, "We know a massive secret, but we are too terrified to say a word." When we reached the office floor, things were even worse. My former colleagues looked at me like I was the Messiah. Liam, you're back. Liam, you are my one and only hero. But the moment they saw Victoria standing behind me, they clammed up instantly and shouted in unison, "Good morning, Ms. Sterling." The greeting was loud but guilty, respectful yet dripping with gossip. Victoria gave a blank, and marched straight into her executive suite in her heels, not looking left or right. I, however, was immediately swarmed by my work bros. Liam, absolute legend. You actually melted the Ice Queen. Dave looked at me with pure worship. Spill it, man. How did you two hook up? Chris winked aggressively. Liam, bro, you're the CEO's man now. You gotta look out for us. Josh hugged my leg, looking incredibly sycophantic. I gently kicked him off. Get back to work, all of you. Gossiping on company time? Do you want to be fired? I kept a straight face, doing my best Victoria impression. The group froze for a second before bursting into even louder laughter. Well, look at Liam. You aren't even married yet, and you're already throwing the boss's weight around. I ignored them and walked back to my long empty cubicle. It had been scrubbed clean. The cactus I had nearly killed was somehow thriving, plump and green, and even had a little yellow flower blooming on top. There was a sticky note on the desk. Welcome home, Liam. The Cactus Protection Alliance. I smiled. Even though I was exiled for half a year, I still belonged here. I had just sat down when Arthur practically floated over to my desk. He looked at me with an expression that looked like a father-in-law inspecting a groom. And Mr. Advisor, he said, using my new title. I was no longer a senior strategist in the planning department. Victoria had bestowed upon me a brand new title, Chief Strategic Advisor to the CEO, a role that sounded incredibly important, but actually required me to do absolutely nothing. Victoria wants to see you in her office. I walked into the familiar executive suite. Victoria was sitting behind her desk reading a file, acting as if nothing had ever happened. You're back, she asked without looking up. Yeah, I've appointed Chuck as the acting regional manager of the Sandstone branch. Got it. Your new office is right next door. Okay, and from now on, absolutely no live streaming without my permission. Deal. Having finished her instructions, she finally looked up at me. Is there anything else? If not, get back to work. Looking at her strictly business demeanor, I couldn't help but chuckle. She had put her icy armor right back on. I walked over, stepped behind her desk, leaned down, and kissed her on the cheek right under her astonished gaze. Her face flushed bright red instantly. WH, what are you doing? We're at the office. She pushed my shoulder, embarrassed and flustered. So what? I mirrored her authoritative tone. I'm just inspecting my private assets. Is that against policy? She was so choked up she couldn't formulate a response, forced to just glare at me with her big, watery eyes. It carried zero threat. In fact, it was kind of cute. Right at that moment, the office door was pushed open. Arthur walked in carrying a massive stack of files and caught the scene in full HD. He petrified on the spot. The files in his hand slipped, crashing to the floor with a loud smack. I didn't see anything. I don't know anything, he yelled, scrambling backward as fast as his legs could carry him before slamming the door shut and fleeing for his life. Victoria and I looked at each other and burst out laughing. And just like that, our office romance began in the most publicly known, secret way possible. We became the most unique spectacle in the entire company. During meetings, she was still the uncompromising, terrifying Ice Queen CEO who could kill a man with a look. And I would sit right next to her, calmly, playing solitaire on my phone. She'd glare at me, and I'd hit a combo. She'd glare again, and I'd clear the board. Every senior executive in the conference room would have their heads buried in their notebooks, faces purple from desperately trying to hold in their laughter. After work, she would wait for me downstairs in her Maserati. Then, I'd take her to eat from street-side halal carts, or drag her to Dave or Chris's apartments to crash their dinners. At first, my buddies were so nervous around Victoria, they could barely string a sentence together. But eventually, they realized the billionaire CEO was actually just a paper tiger. One look from me, and she'd obediently walk into the kitchen to help wash the dishes. So they got bolder. Hey, sister-in-law, try the hot wings I made. Sister-in-law, ignore Liam, he just needs a good smack. If he ever bullies you, tell me, and I'll kick his ass for you. Victoria would turn bright red every time they called her sister-in-law, but she couldn't exactly explode at them, so she'd just shoot glares at me. I'd sit on the sidelines, laughing like an idiot. As for the Sandstone branch, under my remote guidance, Chuck blew the e-commerce business out of the water. Smoke and Sand became a nationally recognized brand for local specialty goods. Chuck transformed from a goofy old security guard into an internet sensation with millions of followers. Every time he called me, he'd open with the same line, "Manager Harper, we hit the jackpot again." Life seemed to have returned to normal, yet everything was completely different. One night, Victoria and I were curled up on the couch watching a movie. I suddenly turned to her and asked, "Hey, seriously, when you exiled me 2,000 miles away, weren't you worried I'd just quit?" She looked up from the popcorn bucket and rolled her eyes at me. "You wouldn't." She said it with absolute certainty. "Why?" "Because." She thought for a second, then said very seriously, "Because the headquarters cafeteria serves your favorite pastrami on rye. Sandstone doesn't." I froze, and then I smiled. Yeah, in this world, there are always some things that make you willingly, happily draw a circle around yourself and stay put. Maybe it's a pastrami sandwich, or maybe it's a clumsy, adorable iceberg of a CEO. I reached out and pulled her into my arms. "Victoria, yeah, I think I'm short $50 on my KPIs again this month. Get lost.